I was 23 at the time this happened. At this point in my life, I was living in Edmonton, had just left a toxic job, and was living out of hotels as our apartment had water damage from a burst pipe, and we were evacuated. I spent my downtime in hotel rooms online searching for new positions. I was somewhat desperate since I quit my last job before finding another. I was at the point where I would take basically anything to get me by until I found a job I really wanted to do. I applied on several sites to companies recruiting receptionists, but wasn't having much luck. Finally, I received a call from a man who owned a small engine repair shop who needed an assistant to help organize the front end and answer phones. It wasn't something I would typically jump on. I typically work in healthcare, but as I said, desperate times. I agreed to meet him that day at a restaurant for drinks, which I thought was somewhat unusual. When I was about to leave, he texted me saying to meet him at his shop instead. I thought that would be more appropriate. When I arrived at the shop and walked in the door, I was slightly disgusted. The shop was tiny and absolutely filthy. Papers were strewn all over the floor and they were covered in dirt. There was food and beer bottles around. Basically, it was in disarray. I was feeling a little uncomfortable and majorly overdressed. I wore a nice dress with cute heels and simple jewelry. I was greeted by a man who had an appearance similar to that of his shop's office. He was wearing a dirty, torn-up wife beater, a gold chain, and he was covered in tattoos. Beer in hand, he reached for my hand to introduce himself. He finishes beer and runs back to the fridge behind the front desk and pulls out 2 more. "Want one?" he asked. I respectfully declined. In the back of my mind, I knew it wasn't a good idea. I know some of you are thinking red flags, but in Alberta, people drink a lot. Not saying it's necessarily normal to drink on the job, but in this line of work, it may be more common, so I didn't feel threatened. Also, I'd been around my fair share of sketchy people, so it took a lot for me to feel uneasy. I'm one of those "it will never happen to me" types, even though things have happened to me. He then started talking briefly about what he would need from me as an assistant. Then the rest of the 2-hour interview, he spoke of himself. I will give you a brief summary of the topics we discussed. How hungover he was, how much blow he did the night before, how his girlfriend sucked another guy off and he asked him, "How'd my dick taste?" and how he liked my blue eyes. He mentioned that he kind of wanted to hire me, but felt I was too stuck up. By this point, I was just starting to become aware of the situation I was in and feeling uneasy. Not to mention the way he looked at me the whole time was unnerving. I know most people may have left by now, but I'm painfully polite and hate being rude, even if it's warranted. I made sure to inform him that I was meeting my boyfriend right after the interview. He asked to give me a tour of the shop in the back, and that was scary. We were the only ones there, and this guy was definitely a sketchy dude. Not to mention he was twice my size. I told him it was getting late and that I needed to go, but thanked him for his time. He said he would contact me soon, and he made me as early as the next day to begin work. He seemed annoyed that I was leaving, but I had been there 2 hours too long, so I booked it out of there. A couple of weeks later, still jobless, I was searching on sites for jobs when I came across an ad with the title, "Ladies Beware, Small Engine Repair Hiring Assistant." I immediately noticed that it was the one I interviewed at, so I clicked the link. In the post, it mentioned that this man was currently under investigation after being acquitted on charges of raping 2 women who answered his ads. They went to his shop, he later drugged their drinks, and raped them. All I could think about was how lucky I was not to drink that beer. I was contacted by a lady and her daughter who had similar experiences with the same man at the shop. She gave me one of the Edmonton constable's numbers. I did contact them and left a message, but they never got back to me. It turns out they have been watching this guy for a while, and he has sexually related charges dating back to 1991. I narrowly missed that bullet. Lesson here. Always let people know where you are, and never take drinks from strangers, or candy for that matter. I was 12 at the time this happened. Growing up in the country, we spend most of our time outside, especially in the summer. My cousin was in from Detroit, so he was eager to explore the hills and mountains surrounding my home. The next morning when we woke up, we quickly ate breakfast and ran off to the mountains. It was a hot summer day, and we were gone for maybe an hour, and we were getting thirsty by now, so I took him to a stream for a drink. When we got there, we noticed there was garbage scattered everywhere. I figured it may have been a raccoon and continued drinking from the stream. The bushes above us started rustling, and we both looked up. There was this old man with a long beard and thin body. He mumbled something, but we couldn't hear what he said. By now alarms were going off as he kept walking towards us. We both turned around and ran off the mountain as fast as we could. When we got home, we told our parents about what had happened. They called the sheriff's office, and the cops came out to search for this man. It turns out that he was a patient at a local mental hospital. My cousin never asked to go back into the mountains, which doesn't matter because I wouldn't have taken him. What's up, guys? Hope you enjoyed the video. This was horror stories, and it's something that I haven't done in a while, and I'm going to use horror stories as a way to fill the gap in between my paranormal stories and discussions that I've been doing. And if you guys have a horror story or a scary story that you would like me to share on the channel, definitely email it to me. I'll leave a link to my email in the description below. I also have other social media platforms, so you can definitely get at me there. Those links will be down there as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, guys. That would help me a great deal. I'm really enjoying this. My voice is holding up great, so hopefully I'll be able to do several more of these videos without any problem. And if you like the video, like and share it, guys. That would help me as well. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one, guys.